sent us. You bring a
microphone
for me? Looks like we're shy of one.
Microphone.
You brought too many.
It's gone.
What are you doing? Come on.
That is not paid for by them. That is paid for by the people of Detroit.
You might be qualified, ML.
I'm not qualified for this job.
Let me tell you something. You want to go right now? Okay? You want to go right now, Alric?
Hello, my good friends, my patient friends, my indulgent friends, my friends who have not heard our voice for so long. They might not know that this is actually our second episode since we've been on pause. The intro was a derivation of Once Upon a Time in the West. We should begin calling the soul of Detroit Once Upon a Time in Ferndale. Once Upon a Time in Ferndale, we recorded a podcast after a lengthy hiatus. And Once Upon a Time, it may air on the World Wide Web. I hope by the time you've heard this that it has aired, because my good friend and co-host Mark Fellhauer is growing weary of waiting, and my good friend and cross-dressing combatant Sean Windsor.
Did you make the coffee, by the way?
Is from Ann Arbor, so he just doesn't really care.
Doesn't Jason Robards say that in Once Upon a Time in the West? Somebody's walked across the desert, and that's what they want to drink.
Well, he also
Did you make
tells
the coffee?
He also tells Claudia Cardinale, go get him some water because a man likes to see a beautiful woman. Or maybe it was the coffee, but he tells her, because he's been shot and he's dying, and he says, sometimes a man just wants to see a beautiful woman.
And that was Charles Bronson playing the harmonica, right? Or at least the movie lets you think he's playing it.
Yeah, his character was called Harmonica. So, it's a great movie, and it brings us to where we are today, which is hopefully, if you're hearing this, I guess we're out of limbo, right?
Yeah, we're wandering in the desert.
I feel bad for giving you so much crap for not finishing the notes for episode 1. Little did I know it would take another 2 weeks till we could even post it.
Yeah, the notes were not the problem. It was signing some paperwork with my.
The notes took a while too.
My previous,
you're not off the hook with
no,
writing
but
the notes.
I was worried that if I got the notes, everybody would be like, "Okay, let's post." And I'm like, "No, I've got to finish my business with my previous employer."
Oh, wait a sec. So you're telling me that was planned?
I was a little worried that people might be eager to hit the send button.
And by people, you mean me?
I just mean, like the royal we.
What do you?
The royal we.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
I think that was an excuse, but
you know what? Then I gave
worked
up.
For you.
Then I gave up, and I sent the story notes, and my concern was ill placed, because how long has it been, and you still haven't posted it? So I didn't have to worry about you jumping the gun.
It's sitting in the cloud, waiting for permission.
So here's what's happened since we recorded our last episode, which by now I think you probably heard. If not, please go check it out at mlsoulofdetroit.com or any of our fine podcasting hosting services out there. Since we recorded that episode, Michigan State ended their season with a victory. I finally closed on my purchase of a second rental property in East Lansing, and that would not have been possible without my good friends at Hall Financial, because let me tell you how complicated that deal is. Have you ever tried to pull off a financial transaction where you had to assure the lender that you would be able to pay back the money, even when you weren't sure you'd be getting a paycheck much longer than that? It's not easy, but I'll tell you who made it happen. That would be my man, Dan Morrison, and his trusted colleague, Shannon, at Hall Financial. They made this deal happen, and they can make your deal happen. This is
the second one you had from them, right?
Yeah, the first one was easy.
Yeah.
That just went right through. Zoom. Yeah. They were super fast. Hall Financial's fast. They were fast. This one, I can't tell you how many times, like, well, how would we do it if you kept working? How would we do it if you didn't keep working? How would we do it if we just used your wife's finances? How would we do it if you started cooking meth in the basement of the house you already own? That was a real idea at one time. To their credit, Hall Financial said, probably very lucrative, but you don't need us. That would be mostly a cash deal. So we did not break bad. We broke, in fact, very good. And I encourage you to contact them because a lot of people might be feeling right now like, did I miss the boat on refinancing? Could I still save some money? The answer is no, you have not missed the boat. Rates remain super low. And I just heard on the radio that they think the feds might have to dial them down a little bit more. Don't wait for that because it doesn't always have the effect that you think it's going to have on the market. This is the time to get in on it. Hall Financial takes special care of all of our podcast listeners here on the Red Shovel Network. You know that. We know that. David Hall gets things done. His team gets things done. Of their last 22 closings, 17 of them were ready to close in 10 days or less. Mine took a little longer. My fault. They have incredible turnaround times and immediate results. NMLS 1467435. Now, I'm tempted to say there's still some bowl games that you could bet on. Of course, those bowl games may be Michigan State returning to the college football playoff sometime in 2079. But just in case we get this posted, maybe this is a good time for you to place a bet for the World Series. I'm not sure.
There's always something to bet on.
Yes, we think that this show will be on the air before wagering on sports is completely gone. Go to mybookie.ag, use the promo code SOUL, and they will match your initial deposit. You put $100 down, they put $100 down. So now you got $200 to play with. Never bet more than you can afford to lose. But if you like to place a wager, maybe you want to do a little parlay, you like it to get a little complicated and have
in-game betting, that's always a fun.
Yeah, I see. That one. I don't know if I have a fast enough Wi-Fi at my house. I'm still using the dial-up because it's very cheap.
I'm going to toot my own horn. It worked out. Remember way back when the Lions played the Packers in the last game and they were up
That was back
big?
in 0-19.
And they were up big, and I'm like, this isn't going to last. So I got the Packers plus 4.5.
And you did pretty well.
Well, yeah, because you knew Aaron Rodgers wasn't going to be that bad that whole game.
No, and the game meant something for Green Bay. And it didn't.
I'm trying to beat the system, and as far as I'm concerned, I did.
With the help of our friends at mybookie.ag, Mark is now so wealthy that he can afford to waste his time producing podcasts that never make the air.
Exactly.
So, geez, if you're the idle rich or you aspire to be the idle rich, mybookie.ag, promo code SOUL. Don't forget, where you're betting is just as important as who you're betting on, and MyBookie AG is the best in the business. It's where we play, and it's where you should too. So give them a shot. Tell them we sent you. It not only can make you rich beyond your wildest dreams, maybe, I don't know about that, but it will support the podcast. So consider it, if you lose, a donation to the podcast, because if you don't support them, they don't support us. And when we finally get this posted, we'd like to think it's worth listening to. Of course, we could be wrong. I've been wrong about a lot.
So what is the delay?
As we speak, all the terms of the contract with Fox have been agreed upon by all the parties, and we're just waiting for everybody to sign it. And as anxious,
well, that shouldn't take very long.
That's in theory. And that's the theory, that it shouldn't take very long. But there's theory, and then there's practice.
How many people have to sign this?
I think me, and I think them.
Well, them, I mean, that could be 5 people or it could be 1 person. It's typically 1 person.
Yeah, I think there's just one line, but having not received the actual final version, I can't say for sure.
You think they would be more than happy to sign that?
There was some eagerness for us to conclude our business once we decided to go in separate directions. So
that's kind of why I'm wondering why it's taking so long.
Perhaps they realized just how much they love
me. That's the hardest part, the goodbye.
Every day I'm gone, the longing is intolerable.
I mean, we've all had to sign walking away papers, right? Right, Sean?
I've rolled papers. I don't know about signing papers.
That's the only reason he knows what the dark side of the moon is.
By the way, I do have a question.
Oh, geez.
Just a little curious here. Why is your hair gray and your goatee brown?
Just for men.
Are you dyeing your goatee?
You contact Just for Men, use promo code SOUL, SOLE, because we don't want to get too,
So is that dye? I mean, folks out there can't see, but
This is Walt Frazier.
it's kind of a light brown. It's a little bit, there's a little hair there, which I guess is impressive.
I got to say it's really weird though. But now that you're unemployed, because you got a hat on, you got a long sleeve T-shirt.
I
Usually,
got my Christmas hat on.
oh, you got it for Christmas.
This is one of my
Yeah,
Christmas.
it's a lovely Michigan State hat in that beautiful
With the neon.
color that the school's known for, bright
Going
yellow,
neon.
Yeah, right.
neon green.
Neon something.
But we're so used to seeing you in a suit or a tie at least, or your work attire.
Yeah. So we really don't want to get into the last time I bathed.
So you stopped dyeing your hair, I guess, since you left Fox.
Well, I'm trying to grow out my goatee because
Sean, he doesn't have to be on camera anymore.
on the lost episode of ML Soul of Detroit, which hopefully will be found by the time this post, a certain scribe who was very sensitive to the sufferings of college basketball players was very mean to me about my inability to produce facial hair. And so now I'm on a mission.
Somebody was mean to you?
I think they didn't. I think it was meant in good naturedly, but
Okay.
it did. Every jibe has a little bit of truth in it, and so I am now committing myself to try and outdo Billy Gibbons. That's my pledge to you.
Is that the ZZ
Oh
Top?
my God, that'll take forever. Yeah.
It could take a while.
Um,
In fact, I think our first
We're reaching
episode
for a
will
young
post.
audience, aren't we? Thank you.
Have you seen the kids today? They all look like.
They all love ZZ Top.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they do.
So, for those of you who remember,
Legs wears very well into 2019.
for those of you who remember Fun Magazine and Jerry Vile, who was like one of the greatest media impresarios in Detroit history, they used to do the Big Fun page and all this great stuff. Well, they did a takeover of Metro Times several years ago, and they also did Orbit Magazine. Maybe people remember Orbit better, but they did a takeover.
Probably best known now for Tarantino's character in Pulp Fiction wearing the
Yes,
t-shirt
the
for
Orby
it.
T-shirt.
Yeah.
Well, my man Rob St. Mary did a book on Orby, looking back on Orbit and Orbit Anthology, and it influenced a lot of us who read it and went on to start our own newspapers and cause our own kinds of trouble. But when they took over the Metro Times, one of the funniest things in that whole thing was Jerry Vile's crew wrote that that there are hipsters around when it looks like a Civil War reenactment is breaking out. Because they love those silly billy goat beards, which, I've never kissed a man, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but if I saw some guy that had some shit hanging from his face that might have yesterday's breakfast or whatever, or perhaps a woodchuck coming out of it, I'd be like, you know what, dude, I'm just going to move on.
That's got to be the hardest thing about being a hipster is all the accessories. There's a lot of accessories too.
One of my daughter's
Suspenders
friends
and glasses.
thought I was cool because I had one piercing. And these days, I
Wait.
feel really lame that I only have one ear pierced. I don't have a gauge in there. There's nothing going through my eyebrow. I don't have tats all over the place, at least not that you can see without invitation.
Really?
I have a tattoo on my belly button with an arrow pointing down that says "free, take one."
Glasses are an accessory? And by the way, I forgot you had an earring.
Well, if you don't need them.
Yeah, didn't we used to? Yeah,
They used to make you edgy.
Yeah,
Now you're lame.
back in the early days of the early 2000s of the Free Press when
Yeah,
you
it's
were
like you only have one piercing.
trying to get
I
noticed,
do.
and you came in with your earring.
Well, where's the piercing? Because it would be cool if it was in your scrotum. Maybe not.
Would it really be that cool?
Not to me.
Are chicks really into that?
Mark,
No.
one time Mike told me
Not that
that
I'm aware of.
he just randomly, because he likes to talk about his backside and how tight and smooth and bouncy it is, I guess, all that. He said it's so tight you could play jacks off of it. He told me this one time, just in the newsroom randomly. And I said, doesn't the earring get in the way? That's what I remember about it. That's what I remember about the
You know what I
earring.
remember about that? The next day you came with a set of jacks.
Oh, yeah.
I went right to HR.
Do you have any tattoos?
No.
Do you have any tattoos?
No.
I don't either.
I mean,
Took a
I have
puck
3
off the
chins.
ankle the other
Does that
day.
count? He used to
just-
call me turkey neck, Gobble, gobble. This is the kind of
so mean.
mature, sophisticated
So it's like,
banter that would happen
Did the
back
Free
in
Press not have an HR department?
back in his Pulitzer days.
I remember one time after a particularly appreciative column of Thomas Izzo saying that it looked like you had a little jizzo on your chin, but
You know what? This is a family show.
It is.
this may never post. If you're hearing this is bootleg.
I can't believe
Call the
some-
authorities.
He did say that.
I can't believe some people would have a problem with this. show.
Call Tipper Gore. Don't let your children be exposed to this.
Does the newsroom exist anymore at the paper? Do people gather? I mean, every job can
Their
pretty
desks,
much be done at home.
Their chairs. There are not too many people sitting in them.
When was the last time you went into the
A couple
newsroom?
of weeks ago, I was down there.
Does that make you sad, or do you kind of like the freedom of it?
It's bittersweet for sure. When we first moved from When was that? 7-8 years ago? I can't remember when we moved from the Fort Street location.
Yeah.
I was gone
Lafayette,
by
I
no,
guess.
it was less than 8 years ago because I left before you guys left.
Right. Well, I don't remember.
Fox in
It's been within,
2012.
I don't know, 7 years ago, something. When we first moved close to Campus Martius in the building we're in now, it was packed. It was half the size, maybe third of the size of the newsroom that we'd been in. And but that was fine because the ratio was much more suitable to energy and having buzz and all that. But even now, we've lost so many people in the last however many years that the newsroom's at least half empty again.
It would be nice if you had at least one extra desk.
Yeah, right. For somebody that dyes his goatee.
It makes crass
Is that what
comments in the
you're- is that what
newsroom.
you're saying? No, Mark,
The
it's
class got the
it's-
newsroom clown.
And people work remotely a lot more. The
That's what I mean.
technology, so
In
it's
every
not
job.
just that we've lost people.
So when I left the Free Press the first time, I went to Channel 4. There was an HR department, and if you said stuff, even good-natured things, there was always sort of okay, be careful because somebody's going to send you down to some sensitivity training, which I'm not saying is inappropriate, but people would say things that were fairly innocuous, and it was always like, they're going to send. Now I don't think they even have sensitivity. They've all been laid off. So I go to a local broadcast station across the street known as Loco 4, and it's a much looser environment. It felt a lot more like a newsroom from the 70s or the 80s where anything goes. And I thought, wow, this is kind of fun to be in a wide open place like this. It's got a lot of energy. It's kind of, it's a free for all. Everybody's busting everybody's balls. And shortly after I get there, we have sensitivity training, and we go down the hall, and it's in a big room. It's in like Studio C, and and I'm just like, I agree with everything that was said here, but I thought, oh man, is the TV station going to turn out to be as uptight as the newspaper? Because I was kind of looking forward to having a more wide open milieu. And on the way back, so at the sensitivity training, the news director, who was kind of a wild man, gets up and uncharacteristically says, "These are really important things. We want you to take this to heart. This is really, this is who we are. This is what we believe in." And I'm like, okay, well then, I agree with it too, but I don't want people to worry about everything they say like they did at the newspaper.
Yeah,
So-
right. Why care about anybody else? That's a
Well, I
good
care
point.
about other, but if you say something like, you kind of, like, what are you doing over here, Nancy? I don't want somebody to say, well, you called Sean Windsor Nancy, so you must be a misogynist.
You wanted Mark? Did you hear the word he used? He wanted an open milieu.
Yeah, I know.
That just means he wants to be a white boy douchebag, frat boy, jerk.
Just
Let me-
means,
let me-
it just
let me
means
say
I
whatever he
speak
wants.
French. So hold on a second. You take me off the track. So we're coming back from the studio, and the investigations office was in this narrow hallway before you got the newsroom. And so we're sitting in there after the meeting, and Mark Santee is sitting there, and he always wore kind of pointy Italian shoes. Very, very good-looking young guy, very sharp dresser. And the news director, who had just told us all, we want everybody to feel comfortable. We want everybody to feel valued. Sticks his head in the office before he got back to his office from the meeting, looks down at Santia's shoes and says, "Are those shoes?" And then goes on to his office. I'm like, so much for the sensitivity training.
I'm really torn about it because to me, sensitivity training, I feel like a lot of times it's a cover your ass for the company that is having it. Because some people are idiots, and I don't care how much training they're going to have, they're going to still be an idiot. However, we know now you're not supposed to use certain words,
Right.
and most people learn them, but I didn't undergo any kind of sensitivity training to learn that. I think sometimes it can have a negative effect, almost to the point of resentment that you have to go through it.
Well, it's like laws are not for the law abiding. Nobody has to tell you not to shoot somebody in the face. The people you have to tell not to shoot somebody in the face are the criminals who are going to do it anyways.
I don't know. I just feel, has it gone too far?
Not in the workplace. I think it's
Not in the workplace. Okay.
I don't think so. I think
Just
it's
what I'd expect a sissy to say.
I think it's a good thing. I mean, that's who's setting the culture. It's certainly not the government anymore, right? Not now.
but the workplaces, should the workplace?
I went through.
Corporations set the culture.
I'm not saying they should, but they do. It's
What is
almost
their-
de facto.
What is their motivation for it? It's not to have more woke employees. It's so
No,
they
it's-
don't get sued.
No, it's not. It's it's productivity. If you've got, okay, I went through a training program 6 weeks ago. It was all online, and it was about.
Did you learn anything from it?
Yeah, to some degree,
really?
I did. Yeah, I did. There are things you kind of know in some ways, but just the way you talk to somebody. Let's say you're a boss and you're Mark and you're white, and you have 5-6 people under you, and somebody's got to go to a conference I don't know, a training conference or somewhere in New York City, and you send the white guy every year, and you don't do it because he's not any better or he's better. You do it because that's your comfort level, or you've been on the golf course with him or whatever. That's what this was all about, and trying to figure out how to look at things differently and understand language differently. And I don't. That's, to me, companies are doing that. Because if you have happier people, you're going to have more productive people. That's really all it is.
Is there a module in that training not to criticize people's facial hair? They might want to add that.
Really? You just used the word
because it could hurt.
And that's what you want to say to me?
Well, it's Thomas J. Izzo, right? I may have just...
This isn't a work environment
It may
anyway,
just
really.
it may have all just strung together. I may have misspoken.
Yeah. No, but I really think
misspoken
that's
and
where
Sean
it's
was awoken.
No, for sure.
Jesse Jackson,
for sure,
1988.
companies don't want to get sued, but I really think it's a bottom line. Corporations do very little without looking at their bottom line.
Oh, I think corporations, Uber being a recent example, are run by so many privileged white frat boys that the reason why they do these things where you're not supposed to say this or not supposed to say that is strictly to cover their ass. Now, at the same time, whatever it takes to make people be more respectful of other people, I want people to be respectful of each other. So if it's fear that motivates people to act in the right manner, then fair enough. But I wish it came from a pure spot.
Yeah. Can't they just put up a sign that says, don't be an asshole? Can't people just stop being assholes to people?
Yeah, but people bring their own perspectives, and you leave the workplace and you go back to your little wherever you live, and your odds are you're not living with people that are that much different than you are. But when you go to work,
yeah, but how do you get?
You're surrounded by people that are from different places, different cultures.
How do you get to know those people though? It's by hanging out with them in a freer environment, so you can find out where. How do you know where the boundaries are?
How do you know where the boundaries are?
Yeah, because I have friends that are certainly have minority friends that have different boundaries than I do. You know, that say way worse things.
Well, and they can say things that you could never say.
Exactly, and that's fair, and that's
I can make
fine.
all the Irish jokes and all the jokes I want about well-endowed gentlemen because I happen to fit both demographics.
And
I can't believe we're
I
back
slipped
there
that second one in. I don't know if everybody caught that.
No, because no one believed it.
And I can't believe we're talking like this. This is supposed to be a.
He's freed. Can't you tell that he's freed? Except
right.
nobody will ever hear this.
Yeah, right. Like I've never heard this kind of talk from him before.
I'm unbound. I am unbound. Although having said all this, I've heard many people defend Trump by saying that what he said in many venues is what he'd heard in a locker room, and I've been in a lot of locker rooms, and I've never heard that kind of stuff.
No, of course not.
And there is something about setting an example from the top level. And to your point about the bosses and learning about other people and their backgrounds, but for a lot of rank and file people.
Well, I think a lot of people try and use things like that as an excuse. And I'll give you an example. My good friend and now a major media executive, Jim Schaefer, whenever he's going to say something a little shitty or a little edgy, he'll always preface it, as Elric would say, and then he says something that's completely outrageous. And I'm like, first of all, I don't think I would say that. And second of all, why are you dragging me into this? If you want to say something that's
if he
really...
says it enough, though, it will sound like stuff you say.
But I'm just like, dude, if you want to get out there on your own. Don't drag me out. I have so much crap to answer for on my own. I don't need all of Schaefer's malaprops becoming a part of my... my file.
No, I don't have a problem with any of this at all. I mean, what the default language, what you're talking when you're talking about people getting resentful or pushing back, that's white guys. That's the boys' club has been the default lingo and the way we communicate. And all of a sudden, after the '60s, starting in the '60s, women start coming in the workplace. It really doesn't really shift until the '80s, and then we're going from there. And then we get a lot more diversity in the workplace, and that's going to. It's going to cause white guys who are used to being able to say whatever they want to each other to have to rethink how to communicate. And there's some that don't like it. And to me, it's really not any more complicated than that.
I'm happy when white guys are a little nervous.
Me too.
I think more of these guys need to run.
I like it, Mark,
scared.
and I like it when you're nervous.
I've been nervous the way you're eyeballing my fantastic new goatee.
Is that why you're looking away?
I think you have designs on
Is
it.
that why you're looking
Really
away?
did strike a nerve.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not that far away from being a major TV personality that I'm still not uncomfortable when people make eye contact with me. I prefer to be addressed as sir still.
So I can't.
And
I shouldn't speak unless I'm asked to speak.
no, you can speak, but just don't
look
think,
at you.
Just don't think we're on the same level.
So when
okay?
I leave today, I need to back out of
Not
the room.
that long ago, I was on TV.
Not that long ago.
That makes me really important.
Whenever I leave a room from now on, I will not turn around. I will back out. And pretend you're the queen. You kind of are the
We were
queen.
doing good right up until that last part. Then I felt a little disrespected.
Have you been back to the station since?
Funny story. After I appeared on the Drew and Mike podcast,
You went deer hunting in the parking
I
lot?
was planning to go.
Which, by the way, big numbers on that Facebook Live. People want to know what you have. What happened.
Yeah, I know. It was like people watching the Hindenburg, the humanity. But I was planning to go right to the station to clean out my office, as we had agreed I would be able to do. And I got a text that said, "You know what? Don't bother coming in. We're gonna hire movers and
Wait, but you agreed to
and clean out your office for you."
agreed to go get it.
It had been cleared. Yeah, and
Boy, well,
yeah, and so
not much real estate in that building. They needed that office.
I'm not really sure what happened there, but the movers did come and move my stuff, and I would say I was a little offended, but it was nice to have them pack everything up. And when they did pack everything up, I kind of got over my hurt feelings, and I think, and I don't know for sure that there may have been some concern that a certain media publication claimed that I left Fox too abruptly, which it was not abrupt.
Not true.
It was
You're being
not
talked about, though. You're a celebrity.
So I don't. Well,
Can you say that?
You're looking at me again. Just you keep those eyes down, son.
Sorry. Down.
The queen does not abide. But
Just looking at your corset down there.
but so it's a cod piece. But anyway, don't get hit by the spikes. But in the end, the movers came and they were super nice guys. So I gave one of them a Soul of Detroit T-shirt, and I gave another one a I want my ML Soul of Detroit T-shirt. I want my ML Soul of Detroit back T-shirt, and we posed for a photo, which we will post at mlsoulofdetroit.com.
So you gave him something that cost you money. That's nice of you.
Actually, no. One of our fine followers, Mr. Corey, provided the ML. I want my ML Soul of Detroit T-shirts back. So that one was gratis. The other T-shirt, you can get your own copy from the Drew and Mike store, along with some other fine swag that we have there. You can also buy a copy of the Kwame Sutra, a Soul of Detroit T-shirt, and one of those sweet hockey jerseys that I was wearing for our FaceTime Live or Facebook Live on the Drew and Mike show. So go check it out. And, I really don't have any place to go because I am kind of unemployed, but Sean has got some place to go. So we are going to transition now. Not transition as we say in Detroit, which usually means somebody's died. We're going to
I thought
transition.
you were talking about another kind of transition.
Well, this is awkward now. Transition to our great debate.
Okay.
I won't change my mind on anything, regardless of the facts that are set out before me. I'm dug in, and I'll never change.
Brainerd, infinity. Brainerd infinity plus one. No!
I have to declare a conflict of interest here because a good friend of mine has 50-yard line tickets at Ford Field, 35 rows up on the visitors' side, so he gets to sit behind the winning team. And he asked me to help him get rid of some of these tickets this year, and I tried my best and was utterly unsuccessful to help him unload some of these primo Lions tickets. So I start our great debate with a conflict because I am one of those people who thinks one of the biggest problems with the Lions are the people who will buy those tickets, the fans. I do not think we should support this team anymore.
Well, you're wrong. Why?
And that's your great debate. Oh, Sean, you still got a few minutes left. What?
I'm. No,
You
go
support
ahead. Go
these
ahead.
guys?
Go ahead, Mark.
I
Go
do.
ahead.
I mean, call me a fool. Call me
You're a fool.
stupid.
You're
anything
stupid.
you want. But
Anything I want.
it's the team I grew up watching. I love them. Someday they're going to turn the corner. Someday they will.
Spoken as a true Wolverine fan.
A lot of people like going to the game because it's entertainment.
Beers are $14.
They're going with their friends. They don't
Get
care.
$9 hamburgers.
They're not cheap. They like to tailgate with their friends.
I am cheap. So.
They like it's an event. If you have no expectation they're going to win, who cares anyway? And this idea that that's what's going to change the ownership is ludicrous. They make money the day the season starts because of the TV contract.
That's true. And if you really like to celebrate first downs 8 times over 4 hours, you will be thrilled.
So let me ask you a somewhat serious question, Mike. I'm not going to call you ML. Sorry.
I thought we settled on sir.
Okay, sir. By the way, did you bring 2 mini bell jars of like cayenne pepper in to
those are
snort
just
so you
always
can-
here.
Yeah.
This empty one,
Is that to keep you awake?
this is my soul.
Okay.
This other empty one is your future.
Is that cayenne
Ghost.
or Aleppo or Togarashi or
Ghost?
Ghost. Oh, Ghost.
Yeah,
Nice.
they're all yours.
You speak pepper?
A little bit. So let me ask you a question. Why do people go to sporting events?
Why do people go to sporting events?
Yeah. To a live sporting event. Why do you go?
Because they want to see something exciting. They want to support the team. They want to see their team win. I'm going to tell you this as somebody who has a partial season ticket share in a Tigers and a Red Wings consortium. I love the team. I love the sport, but I don't go strictly because I want to see them win.
How many Spartan games did you go to this year?
And now it's time for Room 760. I went to a lot of them. I would have been at the damn Pinstripe Bowl, but I had to close on that real estate deal.
But isn't that kind of the same thing?
Well, the difference, this is where I separate from the Lions fans on that. I feel connected to Michigan State because I went there.
Fair enough, yeah.
Because my friends from all corners of the country will convene at least once a year to go to that game, and we would not get together if we did not have this reason, this extra added value excuse to get together. I live in Detroit. I love Detroit. I don't care about the Lions. I don't feel a connection to the Lions.
But
I feel shame.
thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Obviously hundreds of thousands, millions of people. I mean, there are 4 million people here plus the 20 million people that have lived here and moved to Arizona. They grew up here. Of course they feel a connection.
My brother, who lives in Virginia now, always makes it a point to come back once a year to go to a game because he loves the Lions.
But it's just the act. It's the
wrong with
communal
that? Yeah.
act.
Maybe he
of
loves
going
the
to a game.
Fellhauers.
No, he doesn't.
I mean, that's what it's like. It's like going to a movie to some degree, or ballet, or whatever. It's a communal act of it's a shared experience, and you're going to watch professional football in this case, right? And you can make all the jokes you want about how it's not professional football, but it is.
I was going to make some jokes about how it's like the ballet.
Would it be a lot better if this team was worth a crap and we're good? Yeah, of course.
Sure.
Of course it would. But if that's what you want to do, who cares?
And unlike
I hate when the people demean the fans for going to the game.
I do too. Unlike Wings games or especially Tigers games and Pistons games, there's so many of them, and when they're not good, they struggle. The fans don't show up. Baseball, they do a little bit again because of
It's outside.
the poetic, romantic experience of all that. The white supremacy. Sorry, that involved with baseball. But
Damn, it got dark.
I know, no, I'm kidding.
Darker than the Lions.
I'm kidding. But no, with football, in all seriousness, it's 8 games a year.
Yeah.
And you build there's a momentum that goes from Monday to Sunday to get there, right? It's part of the kind of the fabric of the fall in that way, and that's what it's about. And of course you want them to win, but that's why people go.
Yeah.
I mean, they want to see the hits up close. They want to see the speed, the misdirection, the pass,
It's very
all
different.
the talent and skill that goes into it.
Yeah.
For sure.
And they don't care about paying $8 for a beer.
I think $8 would be for like a 10-ounce beer. This is my biggest problem with the Lions, besides the fact that they blow. They should have the cheapest concessions in the league as a way to thank the fans for overpaying for parking, for tickets, for souvenirs, for all that other rigmarole, and just say,
What a terrible business decision that would be.
if you're going to come here, you should at least be well fed and a little buzzed,
That
because
is not going to affect anybody's decision to go to the game. Very few people.
it affects mine. If people give
Very
me,
few people.
should
I've
be
been
thankful
offered free
people go to the
tickets, and
game.
I've said, sorry, I can't do it.
You
And
should
it's
be
a
thankful.
beautiful facility. Ford Field is one of the great stadiums.
I'm sure they're thankful, but why should they only charge $2 for a beer?
No.
Because the way their team plays, you're going to drink 100 beers.
You should be thankful that people go to the games of any sport, really, because if people don't, there's no sport. There's no league. Forget TV. There's not. I mean, what are they going to play in front of an empty stadium? It'd be like a simulation.
Maybe. They'll still make money on it. That's the other thing. Dean.
Nobody's going to watch it if there's a field with nobody in the stands.
Most of those tickets are sold.
I know my buddy's trying to resell them.
I know.
It's been tough.
I don't know. Fans can do what they want to do.
I agree.
All right. Well, fans,
go ahead. Keep mocking them.
you got a right to be a sucker.
Someday.
Somebody wants to work on a car, collect magic cards, or roll doobies, or read Harry Potter. It doesn't matter, right?
Go to a NASCAR event.
Exactly. Do what you want to do.
I think we know why Sean's in a hurry. He keeps bringing up marijuana. I thought he was going back to the office.
That slows you down.
It's all legal.
No, I don't do that.
I thought you guys in Ann Arbor, that you put it on your cornflakes.
I roll up ghost pepper.
Ghost pepper. Well, there's your great debate. Fans, feel free to do what you want to do, even if it means you're a chump.
Oh man, the geeks have inherited the earth.
Did I do that?
What a dork.
Does him wanting to play with us again mean that he's turning into a geek, or we're turning into cool guys?
This is the time of year, I mean, maybe it is by the time this posts, maybe it's a different time of year, when hangovers are a big part of our life, a big part of our culture. And to me, it's a part of our lives that we should want to eliminate. In fact, I have been dealing with vertigo, and vertigo is like being drunk, but not being drunk. It's like having a hangover without having the great night the night before. And so I have nothing. I don't. Who wants to have a hangover? Who wants to feel like this? Well, there's a museum in Croatia that will help you feel like you're hungover. It is a hangover museum. I believe it's the first one in the country. More great contributions now that they're through with civil wars and stuff from our friends in Croatia.
That was the best museum they could come up with, is one for hangovers.
Well, I'm thinking, they have like...
Do they help you experience it?
Yes, you go there and you can simulate what it's like to have a hangover.
Why would anyone want to do that? That's awful. Especially when the hangover, the best part is what you do to get the hangover. That's the fun part. Yeah. If you don't get to experience that, why do you want the bad part?
I can't figure it out. I mean, Croatia is a beautiful country. I think they're through with all the fighting.
What do they do to simulate it? Do we know?
I think you can put on goggles that make you feel like, your head is swimming. Now, to me, I call that being awake. So that's kind of a drag. But I can't imagine going out of my way to feel that way, let alone going out of my way at great expense to a fairly not high on the tourist destination list place. So, I mean, have we just run out of like cool things to have in museums? I'd
rather have one for the hangover movies. I mean, that would be a better one to go visit.
There's some suspicion, it's been speculated, that the hangover movies were the inspiration for this museum.
It's even dumber then.
So I guess among the exhibits you get to have a tooth pulled, you get to have a intimate encounter with a cross-dressing stripper, you get to have a naked Korean man in your trunk, Mike Tyson punches you in the face. I'm not sure. What else could you do at this? This is really...
That's really interesting. They had that simulator. You ever see where MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, or STAD will have the drunk driving simulator?
Yeah.
Which I always thought was really, really weird because I think some people would treat it as practice to say, oh, well, this isn't that hard. Don't you think it's weird to have a drunk driving simulator?
I think if it makes you understand how you're not at your full capabilities when you think you might be,
isn't that obvious? Isn't that obvious to people? I mean, that bad decision is made the night. Everybody knows, no, you're not supposed to. Well, most people prepare beforehand that, I need a ride or an Uber or something like that. It's kind of like the sensitivity training. It's like, what is this? Who are the morons that this stuff is for?
Every time I merge onto the highway, I realize there are morons among us, and they outnumber us. And I think I know where they're going on vacation. They're going to Croatia, to the Hangover Museum. And that's why, Hangover Museum proprietors, you, Happy New Year, are our Geek of the Week.
See you again. There's an all-night party in room 7609. And you can dance together all night if you've got the time.
occasionally we hear from people who say, what's the deal with this Room 7609? It sounds like you're playing some music that isn't really new wave. It's more rock and roll, it's more punk, it's more this, it's more that. Well, I could tell you why you're wrong, but this is only an hour-long show. But this week, rather than fight you, we're going to embrace you with a band that could not be more new wave. In fact, they were one of the progenitors of the new romantic movement, which is kind of the, Adam Ant, who sort of looks like he's Napoleon Bonaparte with makeup. Maybe he's like Chief Mohawk meets, some sort of Admiral Halsey or something like that. Well, welcome to Room 7609, where this week we check in with Visage and the greatest of their greatest hits, Fade to Grey. Could be more new wave than synthesizer, French lyrics, a kind of breathy tune that has a great dance beat but doesn't necessarily say anything.
Other than Fade to Grey.
Yes, so you picked that up. So for those of you who weren't paying close attention, the title of that track was Fade to Grey. So the idea of Room 7609 is we pick bands that maybe you never heard of that are worth listening to, or we're trying to resurrect some hits from a band that's, or maybe bring attention to something that should have been a hit but really never quite made it. This doesn't exactly fit because Visage, you probably didn't hear them, and it's not a big loss. But Fade to Grey was a pretty significant hit for them. It did make the charts. But here's what I like about Visage and why I really wanted to talk about them this week because I kind of felt like we sort of faded to gray for a few months there, but we're resurgent. But this band has some of the greatest names in all of new wave music. The lead singer was Steve Strange. The keyboard player was Dave Formula, and the bass player was Steve Barnacle, and they have an amazing genealogy. Besides the different, and I forgot, one of the real leaders of the band was Midge Ure. So other than the crazy names, Steve Strange was in a band called the Moors Murders. Now, the Moors Murders inspired the first song that Stephen Patrick Morrissey and Johnny Marr wrote, Suffer Little Children, which was a B-side for the Smiths. So you have kind of a indirect link to the Smiths, perhaps the greatest new wave band of all times.
The Moors Murders, I had never heard of that until I just watched, and I will say this, I'll tell anybody, one of the best documentaries, certainly the most captivating true crime documentary that's on Netflix right now, called Don't F with Cats.
What?
It's write it down and watch it. It's if
I do have some time on my hand these days.
If you can get past the first 30 minutes, which is pretty disturbing because it involves a guy who posted a video online killing a cat.
Yikes.
It turns into a really crazy international true crime story, and the Moors Murders comes up in the story.
Terrible, terrible killings where this guy and this woman who was obsessed with him would lure children to different places where they would kill them. The guy would sexually assault them, and they were buried in the moors, which is kind of like the countryside, the woods, unlike our countryside that's much older over there. I guess the Earth's all the same age, but anyways, the topography, the geology, all that other stuff. They basically would bury them in kind of a very peaty area, so they didn't bury them very deep, and they eventually got caught. So the Smiths wrote Suffer Little Children, where they refer to these Moors Murders because they all happened just around the Manchester area where the Smiths were from, the kids were all around the same age as Morrissey, and it was kind of a moving song, but it became very controversial. Note to bands, if you're going to start out and you want to get attention, try not to do it by singing about something that makes people think you're trying to cash in on the deaths of kids.
Children, murders.
Yeah, the Smiths overcame it. So Steve Strange, the lead singer of Visage, was also in David Bowie's Ashes to Ashes video, perhaps the greatest David Bowie song. And of course, Bowie had some heavy-duty new wave chops. Midge Ure, who was one of the big leaders of Visage, declined an invitation to be the lead singer of the Sex Pistols. He went on to become a key member of Ultravox, who will probably be playing at some point in Room 7609. And he wrote Do They Know It's Christmas? And along with Bob Geldof, was an organizer of Live Aid, Live 8, and another one of those big things they did. I can't remember what it was. But so a guy you never really heard of, but a major player. One of the guitar player, Jim McGough, ended up playing with Susie and the Banshees. And the original bass player, a guy named Barry Adamson, went on to play with Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
Oh, wow.
So this is a band you kind of didn't really know about, but in a way you've crossed paths with them at some point. So that's Visage, Fade to Glory. Welcome and honored guests. In fact, they're part of our loyalty program here in Room 7609.
I was watching a documentary, and you said Live Aid, and it reminded me of this. On Duran Duran. It's on Showtime. It's called There's Something You Should Know. And it's only an hour, and it doesn't go too deep, but they broke up and got back together for Live Aid, that big concert, and it was a total disaster because of the two main factions in the group.
Duran Duran?
Yeah, it's really fast. I never knew that there was that big of a battle within the band. So much so that one of the Taylors, I feel like they're all last name Taylor.
None of them are related.
None of them are related. But John,
Three Taylors.
Guitarist John?
John Taylor is the bass player.
Okay,
Andy Taylor's a guitar player.
Still never got back with them.
Yeah, no.
He's missing from the documentary. But my big takeaway, and I wanted your opinion on this. This might cut you, or you might agree. I think Duran Duran was a boy band.
What? No.
I think they were a boy band in the fact that girls loved them, and it tended to be really young girls, and they played to women. And that's fair, but it seemed that was the image I had of them early on. They were a boy band, just like the Beatles.
I loved them too.
That's okay. There's a lot of guys like Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. I mean, I think Timberlake's good.
Duran Duran's first LP at Warehouse Records in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, but with a bunch of girls.
No.
That was just my take. It wasn't a knock. I just thought that they were kind of boy bandish, and they appealed to that. The way they dressed, the way they, their videos.
They were part of the new romantic movement too, with the
Yes,
blousy
they talk
shirts.
about that, yeah.
I don't want to be a pirate.
It was a very
pirate shirts,
puffy shirt.
Not so much makeup, but the hair for sure.
I thought Simon Le Bon came across very excellent. Seems like a really good guy.
Actually, my wife wrote a story about him grabbing somebody by the something or other.
All right, I take it all back. That's not in the documentary.
That case is still pending. He may be exonerated.
All right, so he's not that good of a guy, but I was surprised at how likable he was in watching the documentary.
Well, the difference between, I think, Duran Duran and a boy band, so I'm not going to concede that point, but the one thing I would say about them that is a huge distinction is they came together organically as opposed to being put together by, even the Sex Pistols were put together by Malcolm McLaren, which is why Midge Ure is like, I don't know what you're doing here. He later said he was wrong. He should have done it.
Most importantly, and the best anti-boy band defense for the Beatles or for Duran Duran is they all played their own instruments, and they were very good at it. That's the thing about Duran Duran is they seem to be really good musicians.
John Taylor is like a virtuoso bass player. Andy Taylor, when he's not being a little biatch, is a hell of a guitar player. And this one's for you, Frank. They were the heart of Power Station. And I got to give a shout out to Frank because he's a big fan of Room 7609. He's also, even before this has broadcast, has taken advantage of the opportunity to donate to support this show by going to the donate button at mlsoulofdetroit.com. So please support our sponsors. You can also support us directly by making a donation because it turns out these days, I just went and checked my bank. It just the checks from Fox stopped coming. So
we're supported by listeners like you.
Kind of a tough experience. But you saw another documentary the other day. You were telling me
Showtime had them back to back, and the other was on New Order. And I got to tell you,
so Duran Duran is Birmingham, England, very blue collar.
Yes.
New Order, Manchester, very blue collar, but really sort of the epicenter of new wave music.
Very little. My problem with the band, and we had Peter Hook on Drew and Mike, and he was great. He was excellent. He has nothing to do with the band now because of the lead singer, what's his name?
Bernard Sumner. Bernard.
Oh, God. This documentary is terrible because they don't want to talk about anything in the past. They hate Blue Monday.
Yeah.
They really aren't too keen on Joy Division in general or talking about Ian Curtis. They just wanted to talk about this thing they were putting on at the Manchester International Festival with orchestra synthesizers. And I'm just sitting there going, nobody cares about this. They want to hear about the old days. And when bands do that, you got to know where you came from and why people like you, but they wouldn't play those songs. And I don't know, it rubbed me the wrong way, especially after having Peter Hook on and what a fun guy he was. And he understands it, that the rest of the band was just like, okay, I don't want anything to do with New Order anymore.
Now, I had a brush with Peter Hook at St. Andrews Hall a few years ago. I was up in the rafters there. They have sort of, it's like, it's an old gym, so you can get up there around the edges and hang out. And I guess they call it the balcony. And I was right on the edge by the speakers, getting up close and watching the band. And then I kind of slid from the edge to the middle of the balcony. And around that time, somebody threw a beer in the crowd. And Peter Hook, who's intense. I mean, if you want to see a dude, if you want to see somebody really play an instrument, this guy is completely into it. And the way he plays bass, he plays the melody. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to see. And somebody threw this beer, and I think being a pretty decent guy, Peter Hook got pissed off that all these people got soaked because somebody threw a beer. Now,
dick move.
The only problem is he looked up and he was staring right at me, thinking that I had thrown the beer. And of course I didn't, not only because, I wouldn't do that, but beers are $8. I'm not going to.
Yeah, so we've learned.
Yeah, I'm not going to waste a beer. So he's staring up at me and I'm staring right back. And my wife is like, and he was like, whoever's doing that, I'm coming to get you, mate, and all this other crap. So I'm just sitting there staring back at him, and eventually he goes back to doing his thing, and I go back to just finishing my beer. And
you should have held it up. I still have mine.
Yeah, I may have finished it. But anyways, it was not me. So it was a very tense moment, and he's really good about responding to people on Twitter. So the next day, because I'd had him respond to tweets before, the next day I tweeted something like, hey, Peter, great show at St. Andrews. You seem to be very agitated in the middle of the show. Can you talk a little bit about what happened? And he's like, some boss did do a beer, and that's not on, mate, and all this other crap. And I just posted back like, well, it wasn't me.
Yeah. At least he gives crap.
I was asking for a friend.
How many musicians would even care enough?
Oh, yeah. And so one of the many things that bummed me out when we were on pause is that Peter Hook and the Light came back to St. Andrews, and I was hoping he's going to be in town and we can get him on and we can talk about stuff. And so hopefully next time he comes to town, because he still tours and he plays the old stuff. He plays New Order's albums in their entirety, and each tour he picks another album. But he put on the kind of encore that I haven't seen in years. I mean, he played 6-8 songs, some hits, some other stuff.
He played Joy Division songs?
Yeah, he'll play some Joy Division. And it was great. I mean, I'm used to the one encore, come back, one song, then come back, play the hit, then leave. This dude is still out there giving it heart and soul. And wow.
If only he could use the New Order name.
You know what? He's creating his own New Order. And we are so grateful for it. And we're grateful for you. We're grateful for your patience. We are so sorry that it's been so hard to get back on track and to get these out, but we will get on a regular schedule. We encourage you to stick with us. We know you have, and we're grateful for that. Please support our advertisers, David Hall and Hall Financial and mybookie.ag. Let Hall Financial know that you were sent here by ML Soul Detroit. mybookie.ag. Use the promo code SOUL, SOUL. Please like us on Facebook and Twitter. Please subscribe to us so that when we do get a new episode up, it comes right into your phone, right to your computer, so you don't miss an episode. You can listen to all our back episodes. Maybe you've worked those over pretty good by now, but we will be back on a regular weekly basis. Thank you for sticking with us. And of course, you can give us a rating, a 5-star rating. People really appreciate that. We think that we have earned it. If not, we're working hard. Let us know how we're doing. You can write to us at mlsoulofdetroit@gmail.com. You can call and leave us a message at 313-Butterfield-89070. That's 313-288-9070. And I guess I just want to say thanks, and hopefully it won't be too long before you hear us again. And we're going to have some really cool events where you can come out and see us. We had a great time on the pedal pubs.
Blast, yeah.
And I talked to a buddy of mine who is one of the owners of the Caju Cafe on the east side, and we are working out a feather bowling night
let's do
for
it.
Listeners, so people can come out, do some feather bowling, drink some beer. Maybe we'll put Sean Windsor in a dunk tank, but we won't tell him. It won't have water. It'll have like nails or something, so don't tell him. We'll see if he really listens to the podcast. If we did this to Mazaway, he'd have no idea what we're
No,
doing.
not at all. Someone would tell him.
He'd be impaled.
Someone would narc on us. No one will narc on us.
It'd be horrible. So thanks, folks, for listening. You've been listening to ML Soul of Detroit on the Red Shovel Network. Cyrus, take us out.
Can you dig that? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
I hear a strange sound. Drop to the ground.
A sound? Like what?
Like that.
Investigates. Podcast 2.